particular place as life. They call themselves Christians and they show no respect to his life at all because it is the becoming he talked about. He didn't talk about all these nonsensical things. Secondly, we show no respect. There's no awe in our hearts that he is the one who has created universes after universes. And what are we compared to him? We sit down on him like what ego human beings are, like bubbles. Of course, he was made of the Brahma Tattva itself, the divine love itself, so he could not be killed. But human beings, they have no eyes to see anything. They know what is a diamond. They know what is a precious cloth is. But they don't know what a precious thing it was that he came on this earth. Now think of it. The situation was horrible. No question of talking to anyone about God or about realization. But even to talk about dharma itself, righteousness, was very difficult. I mean, what ignorance must have covered those people that they crucified him? Then even the disciples never recognized Christ. When he was crucified, they said, now he's dead. Then when he rose, nobody would believe it. There are all kinds of theories even about the shroud that they have found. Of course, there was a cloth which was tied onto his face, which was pulled up. That's why his face looks that elongated and disfigured. But that cloth was left just there. I mean, what is so important about that shroud? I can't understand. It's the blood of Christ. One should be ashamed of oneself. The ignorance with which people looked at him. You can't imagine, if you see from that angle, how people are managing themselves with their ego and living in complete darkness and self-certifying themselves that they are the people who can judge even God. And hardly they allowed him to live for 3 or 4 years. He did not do any harm whatsoever to anyone. You cannot blame any community for that. If he was born in India, they might have done the same. What did they do to Muhammad Sahib? The same thing. But why there are so many thieves, as shown in his life only a contrast, were allowed to get out? Why this compromise was possible and why it was not with Christ? Do we also do with us the same thing today? That we compromise ourselves with thieves who are negative people. And we do not mind Christ being crucified. This sacrifice is very, very significant. And though it is gross, in subtle it has happened. take the awareness through this center of Agya was done by Christ by his crucifixion. He came as a gross person, just like a gross human being. His body died, but did not die, because that body was also made of that imperishable divine vibrations, as you call it, radiations, or this Brahma. They did not die. And that's why the body did not die. And he resurrected with his body. He had to die to show that the body, though dies, can be saved. That's why he had to be crucified. Otherwise, he could not have shown you. But it was experimented in the Vaikuntha, as you call it, that he died and then resurrected to show that this does not die. That spirit is he. When they saw him being resurrected, then they started saying, oh, he was the one. Then his disciples believed him. What ignorance! What darkness! What darkness! It's like telling an ant about human civilization. And this gross happening took place when in the subtle also the same happening had to take place. Like when you say Moses crossed the river. This was the happening of void being crossed by the primordial master. So in the subtle, whatever is done is expressed in the gross in this manner. And this is exactly what happened when Christ was crucified. But again, you cannot crucify him. But you cannot just sort of possess Christ as your own. You cannot say, oh, Christ is mine. Nobody can possess him. You have to surrender to him so that you become his possessions, so that he looks after you. His greatness cannot be described in words. As a child, as a son, he is the giver of joy. One cannot describe how he looked after his mother. It's impossible. No words can describe the understanding of Christ for his mother. His love, his gentleness, his care, his devotion, dedication, his shraddha cannot be described. So on this day, we have to think how he was resurrected for us. More than him, his mother had to suffer his crucifixion. It was too much. Because she knew all about him. She knew all this was going to happen. And she was in a human form as a mother. And her only loving son being crucified in her presence. But now give up all nonsensical ideas about your seekings and useless ramblings. Seeking means not knowing about anything but becoming something. For that, Christ crucified himself. He resurrected himself so that you all could be resurrected. So, you have to today thank him for giving you the lead of resurrection. May God bless you all.